And this is why when I see science is being manipulated in such a way, it's just very intolerable. And then, of course, this is why I told you that last 5 years I've become very active. Anybody who wants me to speak. I mean, one time I was at my own local Salem State College over here where I live in Salem, Massachusetts. Some Republican group is asking me to speak. I don't care, of course. If the Greenpeace asks me to please I'll go. But of course, somehow they never invited me, of course. But I went. There was maybe, I would say, 6 people, in the audience. I'm more than happy to even be able to reach 1 people. That's fine, And in it, 6 people is basically those people from that club. And then there were 2 professors from the Salem State Geology Department. They are basically believer in CO2. What they were so worried about is basically these 6 people are being, I guess, indoctrinated by my power of persuasion to talk about global warming. And they were in there constantly interrupting the talks, constantly trying to not let me talk, even to 6 people. I was just fairly amused and somewhat saddened too. What are they trying to do? What are they so afraid of? To the point, actually, in the end, maybe 30 minutes later, he said he got mad, and then he started to say, I'm not, because I keep answering him questions. He started to get mad. He said, I'm going to deal with it. I'm going home. Okay, please, do what you like. The whole thing is completely open, but they were so worried about 6 people getting indoctrinated by Willie Soon. What I'm trying to tell you is that I'm willing to work as hard as I can, as far as I know, in terms of reaching anybody and do the best I can. But their strategy has always been very strange in my opinion. It's always been about, even 6 people, they are worried, But this day, of course, I get more and more audience. Last year, I was able to talk to 1,000 people, for example, in the International Geological Congress in Oslo, which, by the way, is not a very fun place to go if you're not Al Gore, because the beer there costs $15. It's just way too expensive. When I spoke there, for example, to that big group, I talk in smaller session, of course, but I was also invited to do the main one, right? Where they have, they pick 10 speakers, but maybe I was the only one that is basically against the CO2 idea. So this is the typical, what you call, I don't know what you call this, but it's like a small little prize, that they cannot have it all too one-sided, so they have to pick one guy, right? So I'm just glad to be the one to be able to talk, right? So I go there, I do my talk. Same old thing that I keep doing what I'm doing for all these years. In front of it, and I criticize the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report, right, which everybody says is supposed to be the Bible, because anybody who say otherwise is crazy or wrong or corrupted or what have you. But I was criticizing point by point the problem there. And sitting in the front row actually are those authors of the IPCC. They are the one that get to speak also, of course, before me, right? And at the end of it, of course, I just politely asked, please, question, right? There was absolute dead silence. No question, by the way. But out in the middle of nowhere, there was this guy shouting, become totally angry. How dare you criticizing IPCC? I'm one of those IPCC representatives. I work with IPCC. I know IPCC is a scientific organization, so on and so on. I say, no, it's a political organization. He was essentially, and then, of course, in the end, I just asked him, sir, do you have a question? You don't have a question? Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Please have your comment, of course. But that's the way it is. That's how they react, It's never about what is it that you say that is wrong or anything. It's all about shouting and all this stuff, it just blew my mind, actually. Time after time, no matter how many times they do it, it's still always a funny feeling, Last week I was at Google at New York City. I went to New York City for dinner. But then I know a friend at Google, he said, hey, come and give a talk. So, okay, I'll give a talk. Google, as you know, is very into this business of renewable energy and all that, right? Mm-hmm. Fine, I say, if you want to pay for it yourself, go ahead and do what you want. But I just talk about CO2. I just simply tell people about what CO2 is not and is. And in the beginning, there was a person there, of course, obviously, by the way, before I even go there was already a circulation on their Google internal list. The chief environmental officer, who is based in Mountain View, was already spreading around, essentially tell people, don't come to this Willie Soon talk. He's so corrupted and oily that he's fully funded by ExxonMobil, so on and so forth. Before you even go there, okay, it's already that kind of nonsense, And I'm glad that there were some people there, of course, so I spoke. But then in front of it, there was actually a guy who physically wanted to keep challenging me. But I was happy to say that, he kept challenging me for the first 15 minutes, but after that I keep answering him, and then he sort of sit down, calm down and listen, at least let me talk first, and then later we can have a discussion, what have you. I say, I'm willing to stay as long as you like. I have the whole afternoon. So ultimately, the process could went smoothly. What else can we do? Yes?
Yes. You're doing what you're called to do. I have a question that's off the track now. It's really off the track. If you're not comfortable, don't answer, obviously. In all of the trials and tribulations of you trying in every way that you can to stay a true scientist in the field of open, true discovery, have you gotten closer to maybe wondering if you're supposed to stay in academia? Are you getting the sense that you may need to be outside of academia on a formal level in order to not only potentiate, but to manifest true open inquiry and discovery so that you can really fly with the things you really want to find out?
I think my quick answer is basically yes and no, both, because it's just basically my own personal outcome, my own personal style and things like that. I very much enjoy where we are. Actually, I would not be here if we were to not for the level of access in terms of library. I mean, give you an example. When I do my semi-popular book, my recipe was basically every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, say goodbye to family and just come and do work in the library. For a year, roughly. 52 weeks, that kind of thing. It's enormous. I mean, I was touching basically Winthrop, John Winthrop, the governor of Massachusetts, in the early days, the 17th century, that kind of document. I mean, it's a paradise, okay? When you come to a right place this is part of the reason why when I first came from California that I didn't go back to California again. I mean, came here in 91 and then I started to stay here and it's just very enjoyable. First thing I was given was a key to the library. Unbelievable at that time. To have a key to a library, it's a small library, it's our own astrophysical and physics library. But it's perfectly good enough for me. So I was extremely productive in the early day, of course, when you don't have family. It was a lot more, really pure and essence of joy in my opinion. I mean, you can call me strange, but I really do enjoy seeking knowledge, asking the right questions. So this is my own kind of style, which is why academic is still a very nice place for me. Lately, I also felt a strong sense of communicating. I don't know why. I just felt like I just need to talk. I need to tell people what it is. More and more example, by the way. That was just a few little things, but I just felt that the yearning to try to talk to more people. I ultimately will actually. I would say that I would go towards the area of teaching. Maybe it would be going outside. I do felt the need, of course, but I don't feel I'm too blocked right now. But there are many things that I hear that it's just, best not said. I mean, I have, for example, a professor from Australia attacking me and then I'm not supposed to respond. Just for the sake of not giving further ammunition to them, according to them. But think about who is offender first. I wrote some article in Australia's magazine and they were unhappy with it. The reason why I wrote the article was professor in Australia was telling lie, and then they have another professor attacking me now, writing to my director, essentially want me to be fired. Can you do something about this, Willie Soon? He's ruining the reputation for the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics. And then that letter now was left unanswered. I already prepared an answer, of course. But essentially I was told that it's best that we don't do this. But no one can stop me, they say. I leave it in the sense that I do not want to answer for this simple reason. Because the thing was, the weight was too strong. My center is really a fine institution, but again, after a while that I think about it, it sort of doesn't stand for nothing if you don't stand for me, for example. To even write a cordial letter to try to challenge this guy back. What is it that you say that is valid? Because he's just, his letter is just ridiculous if this thing is being shown to people. I'm sure of that, okay? But the problem is still that, this is the kind of a thing. Yeah, I'm doing research, blindfold, hand tie, leg tie, what have you, Essentially, someday somebody will take the oxygen away from me. Maybe that day I will live. But I'm that stubborn, I'm that resilient in that sense because I just enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I felt that, in basically a place like this is still a very fun place. This is a place in which I met some of the most brilliant people that I've ever imagined meeting. But this day, I can imagine even on the people on the street, you can find some really brilliant mind too.
Do you think that astrophysicists and physicists in general are receptive to God.
Receptive to God?
Not to religion.